This story is ours, about our lives and love for land in interior Andhra Pradesh, Telangana's Mehboob Nagar. Here we have two ways of life, farming and films. Sometimes farming seems a lot like films. We have our hits and super hits and also many flops. But at one point, some years back, even a decent crop had become a distant dream. The gamble of monsoons, poor soil, and unpredictable weather, all of it forced many of us to give up farming itself. But some of us stayed back in the village, and it was because of the vulnerability and adaptation program. For a lasting solution to any problem, we have to start with the roots. The V&A program looked at climate change and its impacts on local resources, which are central to rural livelihoods. Through the project, we also understood that SRI paddy was the most suited for all our needs. Unlike the conventional paddy cultivation, the system of rice intensification method uses less water, less seed, and more soil aeration so that rice can be grown in its full potential. Water conditions had worsened due to changing weather patterns. Under these conditions, SRI paddy works as a good adaptation measure because it considerably reduces the amount of water used.
We started using SRI paddy in the Kharif season of 2006, and we got a good profit out of it. We had no problem with water or cultivation, and we got a good yield. And we harvested about 40 bags in the first crop. Then again in the Rabi season, we harvested about 40 bags. And since then, we have been using the SRI method only. I am very happy. And now with the SRI, I hope to harvest even 60 bags of grain soon. This is now important because rains are erratic. And farming and climate have a very close relationship. Farming depends a lot on climate.
Falling water tables because of erratic rains led to increased soil alkalinity. And with increasing soil alkalinity, crops started getting affected.
In the case of sodic soil, the soil improvement would need different approach. Enough caution may be exercised to note the calcium content of the sodic soil. If the soil is lesser calcium content, straight away we can recommend gypsum application.
To reclaim soil and cultivate on degraded lands, we started treating our soil with gypsum and charcoal. Calcium in gypsum could reduce the alkalinity by replacing the sodium in the soil. Sizable lands in Kottur and Srirangapur villages have been reclaimed like this and are being used for horticulture. On these lands, which were once considered dead, we are now growing so many fruits and vegetables. Systematic science, local knowledge, and community support all together brought about this happy story. This year, our villages in Mehboob recorded an increased harvest, managed to meet the demands of the local markets, and increased our income. All these activities have created an opportunity for sustaining our livelihoods. There was better soil and better crops, but one could still not plan according to the monsoon or predict rains. The Agromet Lab, set up by the V&A project, gives us local weather information like no other agency. Here, we know very specific weather information for our villages.
One day, a farmer called Janardhan Reddy was going to spray his field with pesticide. That day, the wind speed was 9.8 kilometers per hour. I stopped him saying that it was not a good idea to spray pesticide because when the wind speed is 5 kilometers per hour, the spray fluid will drift. Janardhan Reddy did not go ahead that day, but instead sprayed it the next day, early in the morning. He saved a lot of money and time, as there was no wastage. For a week, the humidity level was 90%, and a farmer's castor crop was in good shape. Since there was a chance of pest infestation, I told him to take precautions, or else there will be a problem. He said it would be normal afterwards and neglected my advice. But there was a 50% loss in his crop, and he learnt his lesson.
Everyday weather information is also tracked regularly and studied so that we can take more such initiatives that will suit our villages and our needs. The Agromet intervention, along with the information dissemination facility, showed us that science could be used effectively to manage climate risks at the local level. With an understanding of the elements and joining hands, we have managed to reverse the flops. The V&A is a hit, our own super hit, and we are the stars.
What this project is doing is to warn the people, these are all the adverse consequences and we must be prepared for them, because for every problem there is also a solution. So the project concentrates on the solution, how to manage climate change, how to reduce vulnerability, how to adapt to new changes. And I think it has made a sea change in the villages and the areas it has operated. I am extremely happy that we have gone from a global to the local level in spreading climate literacy on the one hand and the ability of the people to withstand the adverse impact of climate change.
The cranes that once left our village without water and food are back. Our symbol for prosperity, back in our village.